You think you have discovered Noah's Ark, right?
I believe so.
You know you've discovered Noah's Ark.
I believe so.
Hello and welcome to ID 21. Good show on tap today, don't you think?
Yes, I think so. Hello, and we're going to be with Ron WYATT today, visiting with him. He's an archaeologist, and it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, he says he's discovered Noah's Ark. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that and several other findings.
Yeah, we shall see.
Okay.
Sounds good to me, so stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
All right.
We've brought back a good-sized deck timber, for example, for analysis purposes. We've brought back some rivets that were used to hold the timbers together.
Well, you might call him Indiana Jones, but his real name is Ron WYATT, and he's definitely on a crusade.
Yes, and among other things, Ron WYATT believes that he has discovered Noah's Ark, and we met up with Ron at his Museum of Ancient Mysteries. Here's today's Life Matters segment.
Well, we're with Ron WYATT here in the Museum of Ancient Mysteries.
Right.
What is this place all about?
Well, Larry, this is a place that I've dreamed about for years. A place where we can display all of the research on these several archaeological sites that we believe represent the remains of major events recorded in the Bible.
And the big one is right back here.
That's correct.
Noah's Ark.
Right.
You think you have discovered Noah's Ark, right?
I believe so.
You know you've discovered Noah's Ark.
I believe so.
Why?
Yes. Well, there's a multitude of reasons. We have found that, for example, Moses used the Royal Egyptian cubit. When he said cubit, he was talking 20.6-inch cubit.
Now, is that from the finger to the here or longer?
That happened later.
Okay.
In Egypt, they were building pyramids and temples and all of this. So if you have a tall fella that's the emperor when you start, and you have a midget that's the emperor when you finish.
Could be the cubic of man then, whatever his height is. So.
Yeah. So anyway, you would end up with a strange looking structure. So they had a standardized cubit, and these have been found. Now, most people, when they're doing what's called biblical archaeology, they assume that since this has something to do with the Hebrews, that the Hebrew cubit was used, but this is not the case. The Hebrew cubit didn't come into use till approximately 400 years after Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. So anyway, this object that has survived out there in a fossilized condition is exactly 300 Royal Egyptian cubits long, right? And considering display and other distortions that have been forced upon it by the forces of nature, it's also 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high.
Have you brought back some artifacts from the Ark? We have. Have you brought back some artifacts from the Ark? We have.
Yes, we've brought back a good-sized deck timber, for example, for analysis purposes. We've brought back some rivets that were used to hold the timbers together. We've brought back some metallic ballast material. This appears to be tailings from aluminum alloy production, for example, and it would act as a very heavy ballast. Also, Noah may have had in mind using this as a source of metal after the flood. So, having not been there and talked with him about it, we can only speculate about what he had in mind.
Now, the Ark was made out of gopher wood, is that correct?
It was made out of laminated wood, which of course is gopher wood.
That's what gopher wood is.
That's right.
Laminated wood.
That's you've seen ladies' pleated skirts. These were popular back in the 50s. Anyway, these the machine that made those are called gophering machines in England. And that's where they, first were put into use.
So what type of wood did they use
It could be any kind of wood, but the Ark in particular has 3 layers, and the 2 outer layers are cypress. For some reason or the other, this is very resistant to decay and to attack by critters that usually like to eat wood. I don't know if it doesn't taste good, doesn't have any nutritional value, or whatever. And then the center board of these 3 is some real hard wood like teak or ebony or something of that nature.
Can anyone go over there now and see the Ark?
They can. It's a national park. They have a visitor center out there. At this point in time, there's a good deal of Kurdish terrorist activity in the area. We were taken hostage for 21 days in '91.
Wow.
And so they seem to target Americans predominantly. So what you do is you get you a passport from another country, dress appropriately, and go in, and you'd probably be all right.
Have other people said they've discovered Noah's Ark? Location?
There have been, to my knowledge, 32 different people said they found Noah's Ark in 32 different places.
And how we know yours is right?
That is something I'm glad you asked. It's my belief that Satan was not allowed to destroy all these physical remains of the events of the Bible. So he fell back on his long, strong suit, and that's lies and deceptions. So I believe that he was clever enough to realize that God was preserving these for a purpose, most likely to show them to somebody at some point in time. And when he concluded that that time was near, he got a lot of people to make a lot of claims about these remains and other remains of Bible objects and stories. And I believe that he has had a great deal of success in lessening the credibility and the impact that these would have had. And so anyway, your listeners and viewers out there are well advised to check everything out very carefully.
It's 300 feet long. All those animals in there, it stunk. How did they get 300 cubics long? How did they get air in there, fresh air?
Well, it speaks of a sofar, meaning a light source in the top, finished within a cubit roundabout. I suspect that that was probably vents with shutters, that they open when it wasn't storming and close when it was.
The largest animal that went into the ark, you think, was what?
Well, it appears that Noah took freshly weaned animals on board.
Well, we learned that the cubic is not necessarily the cubic from the finger to the inside of the elbow, and that gopher wood is not necessarily a type of wood, but more of a laminating process, and there's more to learn. We'll take this break now and be back with Ron Wyatt in his Museum of Ancient Mysteries.
Of all the displays in our museum, this is my favorite. This is the Ark of the Covenant display.
Well, we're back with Ron Wyatt in the Museum of Ancient Mysteries, and this is another section of the museum. What is this depicting here?
Larry, this is our display on Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, there's the 5 cities of the plains burned up during the days of Abraham.
That was
and
a
Lot.
bad place, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, they had some bad habits that seems to have crept back into society once again. What we have is burnt cities. We have the very obvious city ramparts. We have sphinxes, ziggurats, and the most, shall we say, the greatest proof are these millions of sulfur spheres. 96 to 98% pure sulfur. Each one of them has a capsule of burnt sulfur on it, showing that it's been on fire. They are spherical in shape, except the ones that have impacted and changed that shape. This implies that they came through the atmosphere.
Did you find the lady who was turned into a pillar of salt?
We haven't looked for her, but you know, we all have some ideas, and I think we may be able to find her if she's, if there's anything survived at this point in time.
Well, Ron, could this be one of your relatives here, or what?
Well, I think he's one of God's creatures, but shall we say he belongs to a different category.
This is not a dinosaur, is it?
I believe it is.
Really?
I believe, yes, Larry, there have been found giant sheep, giant wombats, giant everything in the animal kingdom, and for that matter in the insect and vegetable kingdoms. If the giant skeletons of things that look just like these dinosaurs, these lizards, iguanas, are not the remains of these, then where are the ancient giant remains of these particular critters? What you're looking at here is two varieties of pyramid building machines. The one nearest the wall is a single lift device. These can be tailor-made to lift anything up to 500 tons, lift at 60 feet in the air. We built a working model, lifted our van with it. Anyway, and this one is the multi-lift. With this, you can pass a pallet or a platform from one set of levers to the next right on up as high as you want to go. The only limits to this system of lifting stones is the individual's willingness to build a bigger machine. Now, in the background, we show some of the actual timbers that were found in burials in Egypt. So this is not speculation. It's in the hieroglyphs. It's described in Herodotus's histories. And also we have found the levers, actual levers that were used in the boat burial near the Great Pyramid. And we find representative timbers in the royal burials. And they, of course, didn't have anything in their burial furnishings that they were not familiar with in life. And, of course, the idea of having them in their burial was that they could put them to use afterwards. Anyway, this is something that people have been curious about for thousands of years. And here in our museum, we have displays of how they were built, how the giant stones were lifted. Of all the displays in our museum, this is my favorite. This is the Ark of the Covenant display.
You really think you discovered the Ark of the Covenant, huh?
Yes, Larry. This is one of the most exciting discoveries of all time. You know, I believe that all of us are playing a role in something that's only happening once in eternity. And I believe that God settled the issue of sin, right and wrong, for eternity. And I believe that the main event of all of that took place just north of the city wall in Jerusalem. The sacrifices that were offered in the blood sacrificial system, the animals were killed north of the altar. And on the Day of Atonement, the blood of the animal that represented Christ as our sin bearer was sprinkled on the mercy seat. And this is something that I had never heard mentioned before I found the Ark of the Covenant and found the dried blood in the chamber and on the mercy seat.
Now, you're depicting the Ark as being underneath the...
That is correct, Larry.
The crucifixion.
Right. But anyway, the blood, when the Roman centurion pierced Christ's spleen, the separated platelets and serum, or the blood in the water, went out and went down through that crack onto the mercy seat where I found it. And we've taken samples of this material and have analysis on it, and that's very unique.
And what has that shown?
Well, it's shown that Christ had 24 chromosomes. All of us have 46. Now, a lot of your viewers are familiar with the fact that we get 23 from our mother, and that she gives us an X sex determinant factor. And the father gives us 23. And that he can give an X or a Y. If he supplies an X sex determinant factor, then the offspring is female. If he supplies a Y, then the offspring is a male. But if it's from a human male, it's always 23, always. Christ got a Y from somewhere unaccompanied by any other chromosomes.
I don't know how you could withhold this information for very long if you indeed do have that.
Well, I invite people to take a look at what we've already shown. And I think it becomes quite obvious that one individual, you know, not only couldn't find all of this stuff without divine assistance, and that certainly unless his name was Spielberg, he couldn't fake all of it. But anyway, look at this stuff and study it